We're back. I feel like we haven't done it in a while.
It's been a really long time. So, life. A lot of life happened.
I feel like it just all of a sudden got super busy.
Some stuff behind the scenes that we won't touch on today, but we will eventually. And it's nothing bad at all. It's just like
I don't know
a
what you're
lot
talking
of
about.
life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like that's why we haven't been around. But okay, let's take our shot first.
Oh yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
It's been a while. I ran out of this for a few weeks.
Oh, I have a couple bottles. Okay. Good dirt. So before we start though, because we're gonna get all deep, this is kind of fun. So
Today's deep.
for my birthday, which was last week, I asked for shoes.
Yeah, from who?
Tyler. And they just arrived in the mail today.
So you've not opened them yet?
No, I know what they are, but I just want to show you. But I haven't actually opened the box yet. Like, literally. So these are called Saludos. I have never heard of this brand. But, I love them. I've been looking at these for like 3 months.
What?
How cute. Look at
Oh
those.
gosh, I think you sent these to
Aren't
me.
those so cute?
Rainbow. Sunshine.
I love these.
Those are pretty nice.
I wanted tennis shoes that I could wear with like dresses or like rompers. And these fit it though. And they're so unique.
Good vibes on the back. Vibes. Good.
Those are so cute.
They're cute.
They're
Okay,
not
so that's something fun. That's right.
Nordstrom's. Anyways, okay, so if you do not know, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And remember how we said like way back in January that we were planning on like getting real?
Here's the
Tonight
first
is
version.
the night. So I
Gosh,
think
we said that in January?
uh-huh.
That's not that long ago.
Yeah, it was like
Wow.
I'm not sure that it was the episode that we couldn't post and we had to refilm it of Sophie's room.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Too much wine that night.
drink up.
Hopefully we don't have to refilm this one.
So, I think Rachel's more nervous about it than I thought she would be.
I'm not nervous about sharing like my own story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm nervous. I don't want us and our vlog and telling our stories so that, you know, I think people can relate a lot to our stories and have been through similar things and, you know, things we've done to deal with we call it traumas or
past.
whatnot, and how we've moved on from it, blah, blah, blah. And just, you know, to be more than pretty faces talking about makeup and whatever.
More than
like,
fluff.
yeah. So,
Because I think it's real easy, especially like on YouTube, to think that somebody's life is like perfect, right? Because most of the time, I feel like we're fairly real, but most of the time you only see us at our most optimum. Like, you know, the makeup, the hair, blah, blah, blah. And you hear about the stories that we want you to hear about, which is normal. Like, but we both have past and we both have had traumatic things that have happened that have shaped us and taught us things and, you know, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so today we just want to be more real. And also this table keeps moving. Let's just move it. There we go. Because it keeps, anyways,
jiggling.
But I think that if our stories can help anybody, or I don't know, give them hope or think that there will be a light to the end of the tunnel, then that is beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it's not fun or comfortable to talk about, but it is what it is.
So originally we were going to do like basically, you know, Amanda's life story and Rachel's life story and like, you know,
We have
birth until 30, whatever we are.
Story,
I mean, we're only 28, never mind.
28,
Birth until 28 plus
trying to like get all
plus
situated.
8. How? Shit, you're plus 9 now.
We're going with 8. Anyways,
Yeah, but we're just going to focus in on, we both have had sexual abuse, trauma, whatever in our past, since it's sexual assault awareness month. And
that was like perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not perfect, but it was like good timing.
I mean, it's way, way, way more common than I think
Oh my
a lot of
gosh.
people think. It's, you know,
Way
1
more
in
common.
4 girls. I don't know stats for boys. But
I think it's probably higher than that because I think that's 1 in 4 reported. And you know that the majority of those have not been
Right.
reported.
So we're not unique. It's not like it's,
No.
whoa, is that, you know, we're not saying like,
No. And I'm going to
man, we're effed up and look how we've made it. Like,
No. First, number one, I am not doing this to be a success story. Like that's not, I don't look at myself as like a success story. I don't look at myself as a failure, but that's just never been, you know what I mean? I've never thought of myself that way. Number two, I'm also not doing this because I'm a victim. That is a mentality I've always had.
not being
Yes,
a
not
victim.
being a victim. So we are not sharing these stories to gain sympathy or viewers or clout.
We just kind of felt compelled to do it.
It was something that we both at different times had spoken about. So this was a very long introduction. Here we go. Drink up.
Whose life is first? I know.
Let's see here. Okay, so sexual assault. Sexual assault it can run a gamut of different situations. It can be rape, it can be sexual harassment, it can be touching or
Molesting, they call it. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily have to be rape, but I think that we both have instances of
What? You're already
instances of
sexual
a lot
assault?
sexual assault,
Multiple times.
yes,
Yes.
and various situations.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Some might be the, you know, lesser on the scale
Yes.
of, you know, rape to touching or whatever. But
yes, I think
yeah.
that's So that's what I wanted to start out saying. So, God, this is like this is such a like weird.
How
Like, how do we start? Okay, so
in high school, you
in high
go
school,
first.
sure. So, I guess we'll go with. Do we go with the worst first or the
Worst first?
Worst first. Okay. So I also want to state that we're not going to name names. We are not going to go into details. I'm not going to be calling anybody out. This is not about revenge. This is just my story. So I was 17 and it was actually July 11th, 2001. And we had actually a couple friends and myself had gone to the NSYNC concert. It was
that night.
It was at Arrowhead. And later that night, I ended up being raped by somebody that I went to school with, and didn't know him really, like, at all. And then ended up getting pregnant by that rape. And
Imagine that.
yeah, it's
Not
just
only
like,
do you go through that experience of being raped or, you know,
yeah,
then that
it
rape
was
results in a baby.
traumatic. I mean, all of it, like all of it, not just. I mean, I don't want to say just the rape because that minimizes it. But it was just.
I feel like when we just talked about this a few weeks ago, like real in depth with each other, and I feel like it was one thing, the rape, right? And then you found out, and you didn't find out you were pregnant for a long time because I don't think you had regular periods or something, right? So you didn't know for like a while, and then you know you were pregnant, and then how the situation was handled with. It was the schools,
It was like being raped all over again.
So I think you just were like getting.
The way it was handled was terrible. The aftermath of it was just as worse as the actual act of it. And this was, God, 19 years ago. Will be 19 years ago in July. But so back then, sexual assault or rape wasn't something that it was talked about, but not like it is nowadays. There was no Me Too movement. There was no, it wasn't something that you brought up. If it happened to you, you might talk about it to your close friends, but that was it. Well, in my situation, that, I say this, and this sounds dramatic, but I don't know how else to put it. I wasn't given the privilege to keep it to myself because there was,
you were pregnant.
yes. And that, I was not the one that went and shared who this was with and what happened. I wasn't the one that shared that. Like, because I think that any other rape victim can understand where I'm coming from. You don't want to share that. You don't want everybody to know that. That's not something that you want to walk down the hallway at school and everybody that knows. So that was not something that I shared. That was a mean, nasty girl that felt the need to go spread it to everyone. And after she spread it to everyone, there was lots and lots of consequences of her doing that. Really bad.
For you.
Yeah. I had people that wanted to kill me. I had people that wanted to beat me up. I got my car vandalized more than once. I actually had a terrible word that I have a terrible mouth, right? Terrible mouth. But there's like 2 words that I will not say. And one of those words were spray painted on the side of my car. And I knew it would hurt my parents. And I had to go to school. So I went to school with it on the side of my car because I didn't have, like, I had to get to school. And I knew if they saw it, they would be really upset. It was just thing after thing after thing. I was police escorted to and from every classroom. I got there late.
But even the adults
Oh,
in
the
your
adults handled it
life,
so
like, yes, there was like
poorly.
rumors going around school and like people's opinions and who didn't, and like it's like the game telephone, like somebody
and-
says something and then somebody and
this-
it's like misconstrued and
This person, he was not my age. He was older. However, he was very, very well known. And it kind of divided the school. Once again, that was
so school authorities after
they heard the rumors,
get
right?
spread.
So they called me and my couple times. They called me and my dad down. Actually, they called my dad and they met us in the office and they had me in front of my dad explain to the assistant principal the details. What were you wearing? Where was it at? How long did it last? What were you thinking? Like, literally the details that nobody, like, you should
like
never
the principal,
in
the
front of my
SRO
dad.
officer,
And yes,
your
like,
dad.
why?
Then-
and literally there was I didn't ask for this meeting.
And then didn't they?
Then
Someone
they wanted me to change schools.
So she was going to graduate a semester in December. That was planned before any
Way
of this
before.
all happened. And when these rumors started spreading was October, right?
And
So
it
you
was-
got called down to the school office in October, how to tell all these people all your business multiple times, multiple different people.
Multiple times, multiple administration. And this is the thing,
Like,
we
repeat
never asked to see the administration.
And
I
you didn't even want to
No.
necessarily press charges.
No,
You were just like,
no,
done.
I just wanted to pretend like it didn't happen.
But the school was like, this particular person, this guy, was one of our success stories. And it would look bad.
It would make them look really bad
And-
if there was, and it would end up just
Charges.
being
And you're like,
a
I don't-
he said, she said. And that was never, I just wanted to forget about it. I just wanted
Like, let's stop
to
talking
move
about
on
it.
with my life, especially like in front of my dad and in front of a male SRO officer, a male assistant principal, a male guidance counselor. Like, that was so humiliating, and I never should have been expected to share that.
So because of all the rumors and stuff, they said, well, maybe you should go to
we're going to
Olathe
transfer
East.
you to the East.
And she had 2 months of school left.
And I said, absolutely not. No.
2 months. And they wanted to move her to a different school.
Because people
I
wanted
never
to
knew
kill
it was all
me and people
handled
wanted to beat me
That
up.
way.
People
People who were related to him somewhat, maybe, was
it was
kind
just
of threatening
it was
a
a
little.
terrible situation. In fact, that the people that had threatened me, it even followed me to my next year at KU. My mom was called and told that I better watch my back or I would be jumped. And this was the summer after. And I had to move to Colorado. I moved to Colorado for the summer to keep me safe. And once again, like, I just wanted to forget about it. I didn't, it was hard enough. The whole thing was hard. And the way people handled it made it so much harder.
Well, having to relive it, months.
In fact, they pulled me into the guidance counselor with his sister and my creative writing teacher. I don't know why. And she made me tell, because the creative writing teacher was the teacher that we had together.
Oh, you and his sister had a class together.
And they wanted me to tell her what happened. And I'm like, why? Like,
and then she ended up saying, I could see that happening. I can see my brother doing that.
It was terrible. Like, the whole, and honestly, back then, like, I didn't question it. I just shut up and I did it because,
right.
Like, and back especially, like, I felt ashamed. Like, I felt like this was my fault, that somehow I had caused this to happen. Everybody, what were you wearing? Actually, I was wearing cheerleading shorts, like Sophie shorts, and a t-shirt. Like, I didn't have on makeup. I was getting ready to go to bed. Like, it was just, and even if I wouldn't have, it wouldn't have mattered. But I hope people handle the situation. I can't imagine that happening. I can't imagine a high school handling it the way that they did now. I hope that that's not the case. Honestly, I did not realize how bad it was until years later. I was able to look back and I was just like, that was fucked up. That was really,
how
really
it was
fucked
handled.
up.
How, like, the adults in your life that are there and you know, to protect you and whatever at school and whatnot.
Nobody protected me. In fact, everybody made me feel like I had done something wrong. I should be ashamed, and I needed to prove to them that this happened. And honestly, I never wanted to prove to anyone. I just wanted to be done with it. Right. I just didn't want to think about it.
And it just kept on, like, because you didn't realize you're pregnant for a while, and then found that out, and it's like, oh God, like, again, you know, trauma. And
yeah, and then all, so yeah,
breaks loose, rumor mill wise.
And
yes. You put that baby up for adoption.
Yes,
you
and
birthed the baby
and yep, and that's what that was my decision. I personally didn't want to have an abortion. I don't judge other people for having abortions. I actually support pro-choice. For me personally, it wasn't a decision that I wanted to make, and so I didn't. But it was so hard, and I look, honestly, it was such a hard time. I look back at that person, and that's not even me. Like, I think my brain has detached because I feel so bad for that girl back then. I feel terrible for her. But I'm like, but that's me. And it's really hard to, like, I don't know if that makes any sense.
You do that as a coping mechanism, is detaching from it. But it's not necessarily an unhealthy one.
No, because I think your brain can only handle so much.
Yeah, and did you have therapy regarding that?
I did briefly.
Because they teach you, you know, from your traumas or whatever, you gotta, like, address it, bring it up, face it, and then let go and detach from it.
I had for about 10 years, I basically had, I would pick myself up and I'd get punched in the gut. I'd pick myself up, I'd get punched in the gut. So, I had a really bad experience with a therapist. The therapist that I briefly went to, so when you give a child up for adoption, you have to be seen by a social worker. Both parents have to be seen by a social worker so that the social worker can say, yes, they're competent. They know what this decision means. They understand that they're relinquishing their rights, and they understand the full extent of this, right? And so the social worker happened to be a therapist too. And my parents, and she had suggested to my parents, hey, I have a birth mom support group and I do individual therapy. I think this might be a good idea for your daughter. So my parents are like, okay, yeah, we'll do it. Well, the male's mother found an adoption card in his jean pocket that next summer, and she called the social worker because it was her name on it. And the social worker, who's now my therapist, ended up divulging the entire situation to his mother. And his mother is actually who threatened my life that summer, and I had to go move to Colorado to keep myself safe. So I have a real hard time trusting people in general, but especially therapists. Now, once again, nowadays, I think that shit would not fly. I think that therapists, I don't know if it's a license, whatever.
Well, because I think you even said like the therapist said specific things like of what you had talked about in therapy.
Yes, in therapy.
As mom,
Like I
isn't
get
there like a client confidentiality? Like,
well, yes, because if you're a patient, like HIPAA and everything
Yeah.
else. Now, now once again, honestly, he was, I don't even know how, he was older than me, so that therapist had like legally had, or that social worker had no right to even share any information with his mother because he was an adult.
oh yeah, I didn't even think about
Yes,
it that
so
way.
she had, and not to mention that she also divulged things that we had spoken about in therapy. And so it was just like, it was hard. And I guess that's what my point I was getting at, is that my situation, it was hard, and it kept getting hard. It never got easier. Now it is easier, but I mean, it took years. This particular male would pop up in my life. He would try to contact me. He would try to contact friends of mine to contact me. And
Not because like was he interested in just like talking to you, or he
I
was
don't
interested
know.
in like
I don't even
finding.
I literally
Oh,
never I've never spoken to him since, ever. I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know what he wanted, but I just wanted him to leave me alone. Like, I just leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with you. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, you got off scot-free. Like, nothing happened to you. You should just be happy about that and walk your fucking ass the other way. I don't want to see you. I don't want to speak to you. I don't even want to think of you. But the fact that he kept worming his way into my life for years, like and this as of even 2 years ago, stay the fuck away. So that,
And remember what you did with that social worker. You understood your rights were signed away.
yeah. So that is one of my stories. That's probably my biggest story. Once again, I don't think that my story is unique. I think that there are people out there that have had it so much worse. Like, thankfully, my parents had the resources to hire an attorney. My parents had the resources to even know that like a birth mother has rights and like can choose
Hire an
their
attorney
birth
for that, the adoption process.
Yes, you have to have an attorney involved. Like, legally you have to. But I was privileged in a lot of ways, as far as my parents knew, they had resources that they could, help with the situation. My parents allowed me to make the choice. Like, do you get an abortion? Adoption? So, and honestly, like, my parents did the best. Nobody writes a book that says this is what you do when this happens, right? And my parents did the best that they knew how to do. I think the hardest thing for me was everybody kept telling me, okay, you'll have the baby, you'll sign the adoption papers, and then everything will go back to normal. That's what entire time. Everything will go back to normal. Nothing went back to normal. In fact, things got worse after. And I needed to feel normal again. Like, I remember finding this lip liner that had been discontinued, and I found one like at the bottom of my car, and I clung to that because it was like the
pre-rape.
Yes,
baby.
it was like the only thing that I had from before that was the same, because nothing else was the same. Nothing else went back to normal. And I don't think anybody told me that to maliciously hurt me. I don't think people understood how big of a
time frame wise, when you went and ran off and eloped,
that was a year after.
Yeah, the next summer. Mm-hmm.
No, the next spring.
Oh, okay.
May. It was May. The next year. So I had.
Was it a month after the baby was born?
No.
The
following year.
Okay.
So I had the baby in April, and then April of 2002, and then in May of 2003, I eloped. And that's my ex-husband. We went to the same high school, but he was a year older than me. I didn't really know him in high school. I re-met him when I was at KU. And I needed someone. Yeah, someone, and he was the first person that looked at me and didn't look at me any differently. He didn't. He just saw me. Yeah, he knew the situation and he didn't care. He just saw me. He didn't see me as,
Right. But you kind of admit, looking back the other day when we talked about it, that like you probably didn't marry that time for the right reasons,
no, not
and
at
that
all.
you needed
and I've told him this, and I've apologized for this. So at the time, after that happened, I went to KU. So that happened in April. I had to move to Colorado in May. I came back in August and started KU, and met him in October of that year, re-met him. And at that time, I didn't fit in with anybody. I didn't fit in with the people, my peers, because none of them had gone through this. And my parents didn't want me talking about it at KU because because of how bad it was the year before, they didn't want this to follow me around. And I get that. I understand. I think they thought that was for the best. But I had nothing in common with my friends anymore. They were all worried about going to frat parties and getting
and you just
drunk.
had a baby.
And it was just, there was nothing. I didn't feel
like you belong.
No. And then, but at the same time, adults didn't see me as an adult, even though I had done way more adult things than a lot of adults have done, right? So I thought in my head, well, adults get married. Adults are married. So if I get married, then adults will have to accept me and I will have a place. I won't be in this weird, purgatory. So that's what I did. We eloped. We got married. I really needed somebody, and that was him. And he needed somebody, and that was me.
I think that
I have since, and I didn't even when I didn't realize it. It was years later. And that's part of one of the reasons that we stayed married for so long.
You do your own therapy for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Think about and process things.
Yes,
you have been to some therapy or whatever, but not a lot.
No.
But even things recent conversations we've had, you have an aha moment. I totally,
so
did this for this reason because this and
I knew that. I was 26 when I came to that conclusion.
But throughout the years, you've gotten more clarity, or I don't know.
And that's part of the reason why I stayed married to him for as long as I did, because I felt so guilty for marrying him. It was I needed him. I needed somebody, right? And now I no longer needed him, but he still needed me. And so I stuck around as long as I could until it was not a good situation for me to continue to stick around. But I have apologized to him numerous times because I do feel like I used him, even though at the time I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I look back and I feel guilty for that. But yes, so for me, my therapy, honestly, sitting and just making things, whether it's bows or wreaths or drawing
Whatever.
Oscar the Grouch. There's a reason I say it, but if I can sit and do something monotonous, cutting leaves, that gives me time to process. That's my time to like just space out and I process. And then me being like creative and like putting it all together, that's for me, I think that's like physical therapy. Like, look, I can take this ugly thing and I can make it pretty. So for me, I think that's kind of acting out like the situation. Like I can take this ugly situation and turn it into something really pretty. And so by me doing that over and over and over, that's for me is therapeutic.
Do you feel the need to like do that to yourself?
No, I don't think so.
Because I mean, you like your makeup and hair and like you're
yeah, but
you're
I
all about,
love
like,
that
beauty.
even prior to this. Like
I don't know.
that's something that I've been interested in way like prior to any of that happening. And you remember that. But for me, like something I think just physically taking something and transforming it is beneficial to me. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Do you want to touch on your other one and we'll like do part 1, part 2, or do you want to?
I mean, just really,
touch on
this is, because it's really not like, that sounds terrible. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Well, it could have been.
Well, yeah.
Someone's father didn't come home.
Basically, and it took me even years to like
remember this.
Yeah, I mean, I never forgot it. I just never like
she repressed it.
Thought
Put
about
back
it.
here.
Yeah, I just never thought about it. So just really quickly, I don't want to get into details. I had a group of really good guy friends, and a couple.
This was before.
This was a couple months before,
right?
So a couple months before. And I was at one of their houses after school, and
there's 2 guys there.
Yeah, basically I was assaulted. I'm not going to go into details. It was not a rape, but I was assaulted, and it was kind of violent and traumatic. And thank God that one of the guy's dads came home in the middle of this, because I don't know how it would have ended. And the crazy weird thing is that I still like have a hard time wrapping my head around is that I continued to hang out with them after.
The next day, like one of them gave you a ride to school, like normal. They would give her a ride to school every day.
And in fact,
pretended like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
When they tried undressing you and dragging you,
I went
and
right along with
and...
it. And honestly, I remember when I left there, I felt guilty. Like I felt like, oh my God, what did I do to make them do this to me? Like, and for years, I mean, even a couple years ago, if you would have asked, it was like, yeah, they were my best friends.
You still called them. You were telling me the story just in this last year.
And I still, they were my best friends. And I guess that was the thing is that I didn't, but at the time, like they were my best. And you know what friends are like in high school, and
shitty.
I didn't want, but
turns out
that was who I had, right? So I guess it was worth it to just pretend like it didn't happen so I didn't lose my friends. Now, I want to say it was just 2. It wasn't my whole group. But I felt like if I shared that with, I didn't even think about sharing it ever. In fact,
I never knew about this until.
I don't think anybody knows about this.
You never told anyone.
No. I was so.
I mean,
I was so like mortified. I mean, I felt so guilty, and I don't know why. But like I said,
your clothes were physically removed from your body, not in a gentle, nice way, wanting way.
It was terrible.
You were dragged upstairs.
It was very violent.
The garage door opened.
But I had known one of these guys almost my entire life. Like they were my best friends, and
and nothing was ever like that.
No.
Like nothing was like you guys had never like dated.
No. We were just friends,
etc.
And so I don't know.
That was so strange to me when you told me that. So I was just like, and you were just like,
even in my head,
they took me to school the next day. I was like,
because even in my head now, I still have like, I don't think they're bad guys. I don't.
But what was that all about?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess they are.
Sorry.
I guess but I'm just saying it's hard being a teenager. And I sincerely hope that all of the males that I have been talking about, I sincerely hope that they have changed. And I sincerely hope that nobody else was their victim. So yeah, and honestly, that's one of the reasons why I didn't press charges in the rape is because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go tell everybody about it in a courtroom. I had already done that.
To the guidance counselor, the SRO officer, the assistant
Creative
principal.
writing teacher. Like, it was just, and
Your
I
dad.
knew that they would put me on trial, basically. And not that I had anything to hide, but it was already, the whole situation was already so emotionally draining. I just wanted it to be over with. And I thought the best way for me to do that would to just move on. And so that's what you know what I mean? That's what I attempted to do.
Yeah.
And nobody would let me.
And then now in your adult life, you're just kind of like dealing with
Yes.
the fallout from
Mhm.
that. No, and I think it didn't happen. I know this because
No.
it was just like
I had about 10 years of
chaos and
chaos.
trauma, and
And not all because of that. I
No.
want to state that, but just lots of shitty life had happened. Thank God
So when you met Tyler and kind of got settled down and like with Tyler and like you had been divorced or whatever, and I think you finally like were able to just
not right when I met Tyler, because it got real bad for a little bit right after I met Tyler. It wasn't.
Right. I'm saying got married. To Tyler.
Yes. It wasn't until I got married. Yes, and that had all
Right.
been worked out.
When you very first met Tyler, the first day, yes, it got real bad with things then. But no, when you married Tyler,
Yes.
moved into your house, you had Emery, you were like,
yes.
you were
It was a year. I'd had Emery.
nothing chaotic or traumatic was
my
happening.
life
Right?
was finally exactly how I wanted. It was stable. It was content, and that's when I started having full-blown panic attacks.
That's when you started
I couldn't leave the
losing your
house.
shit.
Yeah, I literally couldn't, and I didn't know why.
Because you had been like pushing forward, chug, go,
'Cause I'm, like, literally-
strength, I gotta do this for my kids, I gotta like
my life has
get
been
my shit
hell
together.
since I was 17, and now everything, like, I literally have everything that I want. Like, I'm stable, I'm safe, like, it's not like my life is not like this. I'm not struggling to survive, because literally the past 12 years had just been me struggling to survive and trying to
financially, emotionally
support my kids,
2 kids.
and everything else. And it wasn't until then that all of a sudden, like, I literally couldn't leave my house because I would have a panic attack. I couldn't go to Walmart, and it wasn't until a friend of mine, one of my good friends, she was actually in school at the time to
be a therapist.
be a therapist. And she was like, well, so what your body does is that your body does not, or your brain does not let you handle trauma until you are ready. Okay. So when all of this was happening,
She's like, oh shit.
yeah, when all of this was happening, I was just surviving.
Like fight or flight.
Literally, I was just surviving because that's all I could do, right? I look back now and I'm like, my God, that was terrible. Like, that was the worst. How did I get, but at the time I couldn't even see how bad it was, because my brain would not have been able to handle it.
Specifically talking about the
No, I'm
rape
just talking about
situation
the
or
past,
like,
those 12 years. There were so many moments where it was so bad and at the time I didn't realize how bad it was, and I think my brain protected me from that, because I just kept, honestly, I am the type of person, I kept putting one foot in front of the other, I never broke down, I didn't turn to drugs, I didn't turn to alcohol, I just kept moving forward, like, regardless of how I had to do that.
You
I
always
kept
used
moving
the
forward.
word had to be strong. I had to
be strong.
Strength,
I had to be
because
strong.
you
I
had
had to
kids
be
at
strong.
that point in time too.
Well, yeah, but even prior
And-
to that, like,
right.
honestly,
But then, like, now, I think you said something, I don't remember, like, nothing really major happens, but you're like, I feel like my strength
sometimes
for my
yeah.
lifetime, like, has run
Yeah,
out,
I
you
do
know,
feel like that sometimes. Because it's like,
you had to use,
I
like,
used it all for
Yeah.
those 12 years. I remember even when this had all happened, I remember I didn't even feel like I could show emotion in front of my parents, because I knew that I knew that this already upset them, but I knew if I showed how hurt I really was, it would kill them.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want that, and I didn't want them to see me as a victim. So I didn't show emotion to anybody, like, about it. Because I didn't want to be anybody's victim. However, saying all of that, I'm in a really good place now. Once again, thank God I never turned to alcohol or drugs. I don't even, like,
I don't know how you did.
I know, I'm really, like, way to go, Amanda. Honestly, I think being creative, and finding an outlet was the best thing that could have happened to me. Tyler was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Your kids,
My
kind of, too.
kids, yeah.
Because if you didn't have them, I think it would have been a lot easier to like.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
you still.
I was
think you
never
would
a
have, even if you-
partier. Like I
No.
was, so that wasn't. But I'm just. I guess my faith, like, and that was another thing you said. I can't believe you were never mad at God. Like, you remember
Yeah.
when you said that?
Mhm.
And I'm like, no, that was just because, like, this is the thing. I know God didn't want these things to happen to me.
But they just kept happening
Yes,
and happening,
yes,
and one
but,
thing and
I
then
mean,
the other.
But I'm not the only person. Like, I'm sure there
I know,
are stories out there that are so much worse than
That's
mine.
true. Yes.
And so for me, I just never directed that anger at even anybody. Like, I didn't have, that was the thing. It was very, very rare that I got angry because I didn't have time for that. My whole purpose was to keep moving forward. I didn't have time for that.
My go-to emotion, because of all my, I say trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like using that word, but for all the things that have happened in my past, I was angry for a long time.
Yeah,
I was
you told
I was
me that.
angry.
And I never.
I was just angry at it, just the emotion anger, not at like certain people or whatever had happened or whatever. Just I always carried this anger in me, and like that I didn't realize
was,
this until just a few years ago, and like deal with that. And now I'm way less angry.
Mine was more like I felt like I had to do more. Like I took on that burden. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had to try harder. I had to be more, do more. Like I didn't turn to anger. I turned more to I'm going to use this to motivate me.
So I guess maybe we should wrap up this part one for you.
Yes,
since
because it's already
40
been
minutes.
forever.
So what advice, for girls or women that have been through, this is all about sexual assault.
What
parts
advice?
of our lives, like
number one, I would say, don't ever feel like you need to prove to anybody that your story is what your story is. It doesn't really matter if other people believe you, because at the end of the day, you know what happened. Don't feel like you have to prove yourself to other people, and don't make people feel like you were any less than because of your past. I would also say that that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, your life may be shit right this second, but it doesn't mean it's going to be shit 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 2 weeks from now.
seek help, talk to somebody about it. I think
Definitely.
whether it's a therapist or
yeah, I would say
a best friend
probably
or whatever.
don't do me and not go to. I think I just happened to get. I just happened to be really lucky that I was able to handle it the way that I did, but it's not something I would suggest to anybody else. Actually, but I would say the biggest thing I learned from this was to be empathetic and to not be judgmental. Don't ever be judgmental to other people. Don't look down at somebody. Don't think you know their story. I have learned that time and time again. And I never thought like that. I never particularly felt like that I was ever judgy in the first place, but that situation, this has definitely just reiterated that. And that's something that I've like ingrained in my kids. Like, okay, there's a stripper and she has a kid or whatever. She's probably stripping to feed that kid, right? And it's not your place to judge them. Or if you see a lady and she has a black eye and 3 kids and she's staying with the guy, don't judge her, because it's probably really hard for her to leave, and she probably doesn't have any money or resources to even leave. If you see a teenager that's pregnant, don't think that she's a slut. Be empathetic. Approach people with curiosity, not judgment. So I would say that was the biggest lesson that I personally learned from all of this. And I guess I am appreciative that I am who I am now. And I don't think I would be that person without that experience.
Yeah. Ta-da.
So.
But you are not claiming to be like perfect who you are.
No, but I don't feel like I do feel good. I don't feel like I'm a bitter, angry person. And that was really important to me. I didn't want to walk around holding on to that anger. And because I felt like if I would have held on to that anger, then I really would have been a victim. Because then it's affecting me forever, right?
I hope we don't have any like therapist viewers who are gonna pick us apart and be like, "Oh,
Well,
this
I
girl."
just talked about empathy, so if they want to pick us apart,
No, I mean like, tell us how bad they need us or something. I don't know.
I don't care. Honestly, I'm literally just sharing. Like, this is not something that I want to broadcast, but it's something that if it will help
It's
somebody else.
unfortunately relatable.
Yeah, if it can help somebody else, then I'm totally fine with that. It is my story. It is what happened, and not everything in life is comfortable. So, well,
So go
we're
like.
going to go now.
We'll be back in a few minutes
Yes.
with part 2 of
Yes.
my story.
Yes.
How do I follow that one up?
Well, I don't.
I'm just kidding. It's our own stories.
Okay.
There's no following up.
Okay.
All right. Bye everyone.